Welcome to our series, People Skills in the Workplace, Resolving Conflict. Conflict can have both a positive and a negative impact in any workplace, and we'll be looking at the different types of conflict, the signs of conflict, stages of conflict, and ways to help you manage negative conflict effectively. Resolving negative conflict is important so that you can maintain your customer and client base and work effectively with their suppliers and employees. Conflict can occur in the workplace when people's ideas, decisions, or actions relating directly to their work are in opposition, or when people just don't get along. A personality clash. A conflict of ideas can often be productive if the people involved are willing to work out solutions together. Sometimes the compromises can be better for business than the original ideas. Conflict of this kind often generate better work practices and positive changes. You may hear this referred to as creative tension. Personality clashes, on the other hand, are rarely productive. A clash may start with a dispute on business practice and escalate from there. Or the two people may simply dislike each other. This type of workplace conflict is bad for business because it can lead to downturns in productivity and increase in absenteeism. This can especially be the case if your customers become aware of bad feelings among your staff or between you and your staff. It is very hard to hide. If you are feeling uncomfortable with a client, customer, supplier, or employee, it is a good time to reflect on whether conflict is involved and then take steps to resolve it. One thing you can be sure of, it won't just go away. As a business owner, you need to be aware of two basic levels of conflict: emerging conflict and existing conflict. Emerging conflict is where one or more people feel uncomfortable. For example, an employee is upset about having to complete a particular task. You are unhappy because a supplier has misplaced your order. A client is annoyed because you are late for an appointment. Discomfort is a signal that things may get worse. Using good communication skills at this time, identifying the issues and addressing it appropriately, can mean that the conflict won't escalate. Signs of existing conflict can include anger, physical aggression, and verbal threats. However, other signs can be behaviors such as absenteeism, crying, and sabotage. For example, a disgruntled employee can be damaging your business by being cranky with customers and not offering the level of service you require, or they may be calling in sick regularly. Both of these behaviors can indicate that something is wrong and it could involve conflict. An important point to remember is that not all conflict involves anger or aggressive behavior. Conflict usually moves through stages, but it doesn't have to go through all 5 stages to occur. A stage may only last a very short time. For example, an aggressive person could go from a misunderstanding very quickly to a crisis. The tension they felt may have lasted for a few seconds before they reach crisis point. Understanding the stages of conflict can help you decide whether there is a simple solution or more sophisticated management intervention is needed. So let's look at the stages of conflict and how you might react. Discomfort is when you may feel something isn't quite right, even though you're not sure why you are feeling that way or what the problem is. The incident stage is when something happens and you feel annoyed or upset. It may be a short conversation, or something is done in a way that is not how it would usually happen. Indicators of the misunderstanding stage are that you are thinking about the problem or issue a lot. You are unsure of the reasons for a client, customer, supplier, or employee's behavior. At the tension stage, the relationship you have with the other person may feel difficult because of negative opinions and attitudes. The way you feel about the person may be quite different to how you felt before, and you are worrying about the relationship and how it is affecting your business. You will recognize the crisis stage of conflict when your reactions to situations are not how you would normally behave. The relationship between you and the other person is very difficult and unable to be easily repaired. When you are dealing with conflict, it may not be possible to completely resolve the issue. However, you may be able to move the conflict back to a stage where it is more manageable and not impacting significantly on your business. You can more effectively manage conflict if you systematically work through a series of steps. A key ingredient in successfully dealing with conflict is to work out what you want to achieve. You should also recognize that resolving conflict may not be a quick, simple, or straightforward task. The 4 steps you can use to resolve conflict involve planning, communicating effectively, getting agreement on what the issue is, and agreeing on action. Let's look at each of the steps separately. When you are planning to resolve a conflict, you need to clearly identify your goals and what you want to achieve. For example, you want a customer to pay the account on time. Know what the problem or issue is. The customer has been late in paying their account for the past 3 months, and this is affecting your business's ability to order new stock because your cash flow is affected. List all the relevant issues. You value the customer, you want to retain their business. You don't want your cash flow and stock levels to be adversely affected because he isn't paying on time. List the participants and their wants and needs. The customer needs your services in order to do their work. You want to retain the customer because they purchase a lot of your product. Identify the main ways you can approach the situation. Wait until you see the customer and have a quiet word. Send an email or letter asking for immediate payment. Make a telephone call. Select the most appropriate strategy. If you're going to be seeing the customer soon and know that you can calmly discuss the issue, you might select this option. If you are unsure of how you or the customer might react to this situation, you may choose to write a polite reminder. Be clear about the next step. If the customer doesn't pay the account on time, what are you going to do? Good communication skills can resolve most situations. Using your observation and listening skills, asking questions to clarify what is happening, gathering feedback, and being conscious of how your body language is impacting on the conversation are excellent ways to begin managing conflict. Use your communication skills to get agreement on what the problem is, clarify each other's goals, use your effective communication techniques when discussing the problem. It is a good idea to think about how you will communicate with the other person about the conflict. Do a bit more planning. To get agreement on what the issue is, you will need to continue to use your effective communication skills. So let's look at how you might use these skills. Starting with your body language, think about the tone of voice you would use to start the conversation. For example, if you're discussing a conflict with a staff member, a good open question might be, "What do you see as the problem?" Practice the different ways you can ask this question and choose the way that is going to build the relationship with the employee and give them confidence to contribute to solve the problem and will let them tell their side of the story. Using your observation and listening skills when listening to the response. Ask more questions to clarify their response and gather feedback. In other words, be an active listener. Once you are sure you have agreement about what the issue is, you can focus on it rather than side issues and be sure you are both working towards a resolution. The next step is to agree the actions that will resolve the conflict. This involves summarizing the outcomes of the conversation, acknowledge where you agree and disagree, getting agreement on the next stage, and thank the person for their contribution to gaining the agreement. Record the outcomes if this is necessary. There may be occasions where the conflict may get worse by continuing a conversation. In these circumstances, it is best to make another time to meet and to return to your planning step. If the conflict cannot be resolved, you may need to decide on how your business will address the issue or seek a third party to mediate. A good thing to remember is that some conflict can be good for your workplace. It can energize and help to create new ideas.